Hey, it's your boy, Tony Lutz.
Hey, on this new, completely new day of VFX podcast, where we're definitely not wearing the same clothes, let's jump into it. So let's talk about something interesting. Let's talk about AI. And I don't even know how to get started in this. How, do we even pull it up? Is there a screen share option here?
Should we ask AI?
Yeah, where's ChatGPT when I need him? Or need it? I don't know. Is it whose voice here? Speaking of that, do you ever see the AI voice game is getting pretty good? That's what I've noticed. That's getting pretty solid. I keep hearing the same guy's voice, and I was getting suspicious, so I looked it up, and it's some AI voice. It's looked up AI as we have here. But what I wanted to do is show some examples of what the current state of stuff is and where it's going. And I don't know if there's a screen share.
I mean, what are some cool use cases? I know we've seen dubs, which I think is super cool. So if the film's in another country, you can actually make it so the lips line up, which is going to be pretty sick. I mean, how have you guys used, other than outside ChatGPT, have you guys used CopyCat yet at all? Speaking of AI, you have agents use CopyCat. Okay.
Yeah, it's such a broad topic at the moment, right? And it's such a hot one as well. There's so many different areas that this is filtering into. So I think saying we're talking about AI is just like saying we're talking about the present in general. Yeah. Regarding CopyCat, that's an interesting one. I just see it as a huge sandbox for possibilities, and most of them will be yet to be explored forever because it's so many things that can be done with this. But it's still a convolutional thing. And at least in our case, in Orca, most of the things we've done with CopyCat have been super specific, meaning this small section that you can always define a pretty simple rule for, we want to take this into that. And it's like in your face, this into that. It's not some abstract rule to generalize, but mostly for those cases where there's a small area that you want to infer a direct relationship to something else that's not changing much in structure or structure or in the abstraction needed to understand it. I'm going quite. So for that, it worked really well so far for us, because that means that with a pretty small data set to start with, you can produce something that can maybe work in many situations. If you want to do something generalized, then you need a way broader data set and much more variables to account for.
It's working pretty good on a shot-by-shot kind of basis, training it on a sequence or a shot or something, and then seeing how it's learning. And how long does it usually take to train for a shot? Overnight or talking weeks?
In my experience, which is also super limited so far, just some projects here and there. So the variability in every single aspect is so big that it's super hard to establish rules for it. But so far, when it's going to work, most times you can see that it's going to work in a pretty decent amount of time, meaning less than an hour or 2 hours. And
right, and then it's just getting better and better.
And so you can overtrain it as well. So you can overfit it to your data set, so that it's it can only do exactly the thing that you've given it as well. Which is why you got the checkpoints, so you can try the different CopyCat models and things. You mentioned have you been playing around with it in the evenings and stuff then on your own, or I think you mentioned you played around with it. Yeah, you mentioned you played around with it.
Oh, not CopyCat specifically. Oh, okay. I've just done some tutorials just to see what the hype is about. That's all.
I think what I've seen it being actually the interesting thing I've seen is I think it's TensorFlow models, and then you convert them to a cat file, and then you can read it into Nuke. So you can take pre-trained models from GitHub and various other kind of things. You have to make sure they're creatively able to be used, but there's all sorts of things like retime and depth generation ones. But because I've been playing around with a lot of image creation using. There's a website called sift.ai where you can get models and you can add your own data sets to the models, training them in a thing called automatic 1111. But I don't know, do you guys know if you can take a pre-existing model and then add your data set to it in Nuke with the CopyCat, or do you have to do it outside? Maybe you don't know it. Because that's the thing. I'm interested to think whether you're going to see a bunch of companies unarchive a bunch of projects, or whether they're even legally allowed to do that. Do you have to ask the client's permission to train your data set in house? If you use their plates, or it's super weird, right?
Oh, that you can use it on another project. Yeah, that's interesting. It's kind of like modeling for something, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an awkward territory, and it's an early thing, so it's hard to define. But I just know that companies and studios tend to be very protective over their intellectual property and stuff. And I remember there was a company in LA that had got sued for using assets from a previous project onto their next one, but they were both sci-fi projects, and they just kind of modified a little bit some assets they had in the past, and that somehow like the studio got wind of that. So I imagine if that can happen, then doing something like having the images from a trained AI onto from one project onto another.
Yeah, it's.
I could imagine where it's going for us. It's interesting to think about. What I could imagine one day being really something that's helpful to us, but also probably going to eliminate some jobs, is you basically have a hero comper that's taking one lighting slap comp and making it look amazing, and then training that and applying that to the sequence of slap comps to make it look like that comp. It's not there yet. It's probably very far away from that.
Yeah, like style transfer, basically.
Yeah. So you have one. I mean, that's basically what we do. It's like you trying to make a team of people make this thing look this in context the same and trying to get them all at the same point. But I could imagine that here's my point A, which is a raw lighting slap comp, and then here's my comp, and then you get much farther. You get like 90% there, and then you finish it up basically. Like, but it eliminates that like talk to this person and go back and forth. And no, you're not using the right blur node. So I don't know. I can imagine.
I was talking to my mate about that who's on Lion King 2, and I was saying, what can't you just like train a model on like some David Attenborough documentaries and then just run the play blast through them, and then you're done, right? Like, isn't that there you go, done. Lion King is done. Yeah, it's. I mean, again, there's a ton of like grey areas, right? And it feels like companies don't really know the uses yet. And I mean, I think at the moment you're seeing it for stuff that kind of doesn't have to be perfect. So I've used it for creating roto that I could just do soft edges and it's fine and things like this. But anything super specific, it seems like it's not there yet. Yeah.
The lad that made the extension of ChatGPT for Nuke, I think he also did an extension of Stable Diffusion for Nuke, which I haven't tried yet, but I think that would be
really make
cool.
A roto shape and it paints basically and like fills in the holes. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh no, like image generation with Stable Diffusion. Okay. So, like he was just like using the same prompts that you would. What's the main Stable Diffusion app that everyone uses? Like automatic.
Yeah, that's the one. You can. It's basically a program you can use to load in models, basically.
Right.
And then I think the Stable Diffusion model is like a model itself, and then people have then trained on top of that data sets to then make it like specific in one way or another. But that in painting stuff is nuts, man. So like I'm working on a project. Well, I'm going to be working on a project, and the compers are doing a little bit of DMP. I was like, man, can we just use some of this? Like, because honestly, it's so
super
good.
Helpful. I mean,
yeah,
for the roto paint game, it's like life changing. It's like, hey, I need to remove this set crew. Roto out and paint. Oh, there you guys. Because a lot of times you're just making stuff up in the roto paint. Like it's almost, in some cases, it's almost like DMP. Like, what do you put behind the person if you don't know what's supposed to be there? And then it's just in painting. And
could you use it to make you a clean plate? In paint a clean plate, I wonder. If you trained on enough like really good clean plates, that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Do you mean like for keying, or how do you mean?
Yeah, like you know, like how we use like the IBK and then you do an in paint and it feels like, could you train it on actual clean plates and non-clean plates that were shot for real, and then you could just give it the plate and it would auto generate?
One of the things that I'm thinking about already is that, like, if we're talking about a clean plate without a green screen, like here's an actor and then, you know, on one frame they were gone and you see the background. You could totally train that. And so like it tries to remove them from every shot in the sequence and you have a customized clean plate for every single shot. You could totally do that, even today.
Adrian's got the face of somebody who's already done this. Adrian's face is there like, we're already doing this.
Try this. Yeah. What I found is that for most cases, you don't even need to know what the real background was. You just need a clean plate. So just any painting that is context aware would suffice for most cases, not for all of them. But there's like so many gray areas in this topic that it's quite hard to talk about it without affecting many people that are in completely different situations. And so, especially with the generative AI, like it's filtering into so many. Oh, there's thunders. Can you hear them?
Ooh,
It's
no.
crazy today. Like there's a red alert in the phone that you cannot go outside and take the
So
car.
if you get cut off, it's not because you're bored of us, it's because there's a storm going.
Yeah. So okay, back to generative AI. I think it's super gray area in many aspects, and there's some things that we definitely want, which is to remove the shitty aspect of our jobs, and most parts of those aspects are replaced by generative AI and not by any other machine learning tricks. And the thing is, where does it start being into the realm of actual artistry getting substituted? And
can I share a window? I want to play this.
Sure.
Speaking of generative AI, let's see, because I have it up. I'll just play it and see if I can grab the window here.
And he's Rick rolling us again, by the way, guys.
So do we see this? Do we see this? Everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I'm sure everybody's seen this before. This kind of like trailer. I'm not going to play the music in case it's like copyrighted or anything. But this came out like I don't know, a month ago or something. I forget when. Sometime in August. And it's basically what it is Mid-Journey photo. I think it's Mid-Journey. So Mid-Journey photos fed through new camera. What is it, like animated?
That's runway, whatever it makes videos out of.
Right, yeah, it says it at the top. Yeah, okay. So it basically takes a still frame and then makes it into a video with like a small camera move and a little bit of motion to a character or something like that. And from that, you can get this stylized fake trailer, which looks pretty freaking cool. And to me, this just screams like amazing concept art or really cool. I'll close it now. But it screams like concept art and good for idea generation.
Recording in again, that's good. You're recording again.
All right, small hiccup, but we're back. So what that AI is, it's screaming the concept. I don't know how you can obviously see it's AI. Everything's all janky and stuff. But like if I were going into a pitch meeting with a director, I would totally bring something like that and be like, hey, this is the movie I want to make.
Dude, I'm hyped for Wes Anderson Lord of the Rings, man. I'm hyped for that to come out finally. It's, the only thing I'd say, what annoys me about when I see stuff like this is it's like, yeah, it looks great, but our job isn't just making pretty images. Our job is making pretty images to a brief, and then we're going to get feedback. So, for instance, imagine you watch that thing, and then like, great, but now make it so that his head glints a bit more, or is this color, and actually his cape flies like this. You can't
do that with runway at the moment.
Exactly, and that's the bit that everyone misses.
For now.
Yeah, exactly. Adrian, shut your face, Adrian. I'll be safe. I don't know what you're talking about.
But it's in its infancy though, and runway in particular, you can't customize things like what you're saying. You just feed it an image and it gives them a camera move.
But where it comes
I imagine the next versions are going to be.
No, but what they're all missing is at the moment they're all rendering the images with everything combined. What if you just did them separate? Like, okay, you run your character through runway, then you run the background through it, and all this stuff. Then you'd be okay. That kind of
if it's giving you different composition layers, basically.
Exactly. Then it starts getting a bit exciting.
You're giving them ideas.
Here's a question we've probably all been through, where the client just says a bunch of kind of nonsense and is like, make it look, and they send you these JPEG. Googled references, but what if they could send you something like this? Be like, this is the kind of look we're going for in our film. I mean, that would be so useful, and I don't think that would break any rules because it's just reference, right? It's just conceptual reference. I mean, take one project where they're able to do that, and another project where they're sending you, 800 pixel JPEG of some movie from 1995. I would rather have something like that where I could like pull some ideas from and be like, it's an idea generating. Video, basically. It's kind of how I see it. So in that sense, I think it's useful, not in the final product, like you're saying, Josh.
I guess the thing that worries me, though, is like where the clients start believing that that's all our jobs are, is that they can replace us, right? That's when it starts getting a bit... Do you know what I mean? Like when they're like, well, you don't need that budget, and they don't fully understand what we do. So it's... That's the bit that worries me.
I think not a lot of people understand what we do and how it applies to us, including some of the actors in the strike. We won't get into it, but I think what it showed me is that not a lot of people, they just think it's like, oh, here's a button, and you took one photo on somebody on set and suddenly have fully digi-double characters if it's super easy. But obviously, it's not easy at all. So,
out of interest, Adrian, like when you're doing the LED panel stuff on set. Is there any place where you could use some of that to put on the cards and things that you're using, or are you only really using kind of 3D geometry in Unreal? Because if you're using cards, then you could split all that stuff out and very quickly knock up backgrounds and things.
We definitely work with projections as well. We do not have a Unreal unique configuration. We have other pieces into the puzzle. There's so many solutions, even with Unreal Engine, you can project stuff. But you have these guys, like it's called like that. It's only one solution where they give you the hardware and the software, and you have like some basic projection capabilities. There's some other products, and some of them we are beta testing at the moment, and they're looking amazing. But in general, yeah, that's a good point, because most times, at least for shoots where you want backplates that are real, that are shot previously, in those situations, most times you don't need full geometry or anything, but a card is really useful, even just for the parallax, so that it's not in the screen, it's further away or closer, or at least you have two elements that are having parallax to each other. That's something that worked great for us in the past, just having a city projected in the background as a single term, just 200 meters back, and the sky in another card that we were skewing slightly.
Yes.
And then you get the sky that is moving, and the directors actually enjoyed that, and they were like, let's go back to position one of the sky, and with a button we're going back to the clouds every time. And I mean, yeah.
I guess I was wondering whether you could feed in the camera view, and then you've got your what's on set, which is, let's say, sand, and then you've got what's on the OD panel. If you could feed in what the camera's seeing and then in-paint that instead with using a model, then maybe you could use that to kind of blend between, because you don't know what the on-set's going to necessarily look like with the lighting. So you kind of almost use it to potentially like help you patch and all sorts of stuff. It's
at the moment it's a pretty interesting craft. Just figuring out stuff live, and ideally in the day before if possible. But yeah.
Out of interest, do you think Unreal Engine's going to make, and this goes for everyone, Unreal Engine's going to be the next like biggest thing in the VFX like kinds of pipeline, or do you think AI? Because at the moment, I'd argue those are the two, and obviously they're both going to have an impact. But yeah,
I hope Unreal, because it's more predictable and it's more directable, I think.
But I think Unreal will start having AI tools pretty soon.
Whoa.
I can argue that the direction stuff is going at the moment, like maybe it's a shorter term thing, but just seeing the evolution of USD and the unified description for rendering in different engines and stuff, that might turn Unreal Engine into one more DCC at the moment. And basically the scene is what matters, or what will matter for at least for some situations.
It's more like the question of, are we going to have to wait a week for those trees to render, or will we just be able to open up some live rendering on Unreal Engine or Unity or whatever? And then I think it's leaning more towards that. I think it's leaning more towards
the real time.
The days of waiting for over a weekend for an environment it's almost unjustified at this point, I think. So.
And I know on some shows, like on Jungle Book, they made a setup so that before they started shooting, because obviously it was full CG, you could wear, like Jon Favreau could have a VR headset, place trees around, and then they would basically use speed tree or whatever it is to actually kind of like have those. So if you think about it, if they're already in Unreal Engine designing the digital set, then you can just pass everything through them. I mean, obviously there'll probably be some changes, but you can almost pass everything through, which gets really interesting. It's
Also, the direction that NERFs are going, the neural radiance fields, if you are able to segment stuff inside NERFs, and then you train a generative model of NERFs, then that will basically give you the ability to build anything, and those can render real time, and then you can integrate them into Nuke. You can already do it with like going through Unreal Engine. It's like so many doors opening just because of the real time thing.
Yeah, I went to a NERFs presentation on FMX, and it was kind of mind boggling. I think they had one in SIGGRAPH too that I was seeing kind of online, but that's like some exciting stuff. Talk about like instant clean plates or instant backgrounds that it sort of reminds me of AI, where there's not really geometry or like point clouds. You can, but it's more like you input a camera and it shows you theoretically what that camera should look like in that position of space based off of what you'd already shot and fed it. So it's pretty interesting.
Is the lighting baked into that? Or can you shoot with like polarizing filters like they do texture artists? And things?
You can consider it a point cloud. Every point does not have a baked color, which is what makes it interesting. So depending on the angle of the camera, it changes to what the input camera saw at that angle. So you can consider it like a point in space with a variety of colors, and it gives you the output depending on where the camera is. And so that makes it seem like it's changing, but really it's and this is where it uses the AI, because it's like, oh, the camera was here, it should be about halfway between this picture and that other picture, which makes all the reflections, but that makes it look like it's real and like active, but it's not. It's just changing intelligently between some different colors, basically, depending on the angle of the camera. Pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Jesus, I need to play around with that. Has anyone played around with that at all? Because I've seen this, they've seen a thing online called Gaussian splats, and I'm like, what the hell is Gaussian splats? What the hell is this thing? Like, sounds like some sort of like plugin.
Sounds like some VFX pornography. Yeah,
God. Jesus Christ. But is that in the same vein? Like, is that in the same vein?
I haven't seen that. I know the other one was Labs, something. I can't remember. I have to look it up. Because you can get it on your phone. You can just do it from your cell phone, but it's obviously it's in the cloud. Probably you can't use it in production, but you can screw around with it by just I tried doing it to my new apartment, but I came across some error. So maybe it's better, I don't know, on like one object that you're just walking around or something like that. But yeah, I was trying to nerf my new apartment.
In the Luma AI thing, right?
And I used something similar in production. One of the scanning apps with LiDAR. And because in production, they built a maquette of a creature that basically the client was like, we want it to look like this. So of course we LiDAR scanned it, and then it cut so many corners, having it suddenly in 3D.
Did you do it legit, or did you do it on like your phone or stuff? Or
I totally.
There's some really good phone apps, like iPhone. Yeah, but iPhones are really good for it now, aren't they?
Yeah, especially like ever since the LiDAR capability came through.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So we had to learn, fortunately or unfortunately, about NERF stuff, mostly for the virtual production stuff, because the stage usually is a perfect environment for NERFs, or at least potentially for the future. Because you basically want something that is quite stable, but while being stable, you want it to be camera dependent. So it has to be able to, like, you usually want to be able to move the camera slightly within that environment. And photogrammetry is like an overkill solution for most things. NERF is like, it hits a pretty sweet spot in terms of how much you need reference photography in order to build the scene, and how much is it shifting stuff when you move. So in this aspect, we had to do some research and stuff. And there's a few products right now that are integrating within Unreal Engine. One is the Luma AI. That's the phone app that you can use. So they're integrated into Unreal Engine at the moment. And there's also this other product. It's called Volinga Renderer. And we are basically beta testing with them in the scene, in the stage. So it's a live renderer of NERFs in Unreal Engine. So you can basically move the camera inside the NERF, and it's like super promising. And what I find interesting about that is that if you have it in Unreal, you have it in Nuke, because you have the Unreal Bridge. So you can basically have a NERF renderer in Nuke. Wow. and that also works. And it's like opening some pretty interesting doors. Main thing at the moment with the GPU capabilities and stuff is the quality for real-time purposes, but you don't need real-time purposes in Nuke. If a frame renders in a second, it's good enough for us, and even 2 seconds, right? So that's I think that's going in a pretty interesting direction.
But that's, I guess, the interesting thing, isn't it? Like, nothing's stable at the moment, so it's kind of impossible for a company to build a pipeline around anything right now. And I think you're probably going to see the most interesting new workflows for shorter format stuff, like YouTube channels and stuff like that. They're probably more ahead of their time than the high-end VFX on this stuff, I would say, because budgets and all this kind of stuff. At least that's what I found with the image creation stuff.
You can test a lot more stuff on your side independent project or something than you can on a giant production with millions. Sure.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. It's going to be interesting.
The NERFs really remind me of like the CopyCat node. Like, it's really just you plug in a camera and it gives you a result. It's like there's no actual point cloud or geometry. It's not actually rendering it. It's just giving you an output. So it's really just like you train it. You give it like a match move camera. You train it, and then you have a node similar to CopyCat or something, and then you say, where's my new camera? And then it gives you whatever the result supposedly would look like from that new camera. So I could imagine a new node in the future I'm sure the Foundry is already investigating it because it's pretty cool. So
it's a super interesting time right now, right? Like everyone I know is like, something is gonna change at some point. Like something is gonna give, but none of us know what it is. Like it's almost there. It's just no one knows basically at the moment.
How do you think it's gonna go down? Do you think it's gonna be like one day one company will release what they've been doing and then everyone follows suit, or they kind of release a suite of tools or something and then it kind of becomes the new norm, like kind of like crypto mats or something? I don't know.
I think G's the best person to ask. So G, what was the first comp software you used in the industry?
Shake.
Okay, so what was it like when you moved to Nuke? What happened? Was it suddenly the next project was Nuke, or was it like slow? Like two people would use Nuke and some people would use Shake, or because it's not like this is a unique situation, right? It's just unique to some of us. So what was it like?
So if I recall, what had happened was, I think it was just kind of what Tony said, like that company happening to be Digital Domain released the software that they were using, that they wrote like in-house for themselves.
Yeah, but for the company you're at, so you're using Shake. Does the company train you in Nuke and say this is the new way to do it, and we're going to train you, or did you have to train yourself, or how did it like go down in your specific situation?
That company, they saw Nuke happening, that it was taking off. They bought the software and then they went through this transition period. They didn't back then. There wasn't really like official documentation on Nuke. Mm-hmm. So what they did was they just had their TDs and stuff go through it and try to find out what they did for all the compers, at least for the team, was they created nodes that were similar to like the Shake equivalent of that in Nuke.
That's clever. So the TDs were like pre-doing this for a little bit. How many shows did it take before you went from like them buying Nuke to using Nuke?
I joined during the transition. So they were while I did start in Shake, they had like already bought it at that point. I don't know how long it took, to be honest. But we've seen like things like some companies, like they've taken on Katana because they knew that was a thing. And then when Weta dropped, what's the texture software that was really popular for a while?
Mari.
Yeah,
oh no, sorry. Yeah. Wasn't Mari?
No, Mari. Yeah.
Mari? And then the Foundry grabbed. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of companies switched to that within like just one project, really.
I mean, there's the ILM put on an event actually in London where Dennis Miriam was there, and I really was kicking myself I didn't ask him this because he was obviously in the period of time when it was like special effects to digital. And I think I was watching the documentary, he took a year off in between that and got like really good at the digital stuff. And you can see how that really set his career up, right? Like he's done really well and all this kind of stuff. So I wish I'd asked him like how, because you're seeing the same stuff now, like people saying it's not real art. And if you watch that ILM documentary on Apple TV, I think it is, or Disney Plus, they say the same thing. Like all the special, it splits the special effects size. Some are saying I'm not going to learn it because it's not real stuff, and then some are like embracing it. So I find it so because it's going to happen exactly the same.
We're in the middle of that right now, basically.
So yeah, and it's so, but you can honestly like try and find people who've already gone through it and see the ones you can see already who won and try and see what they did. It's I mean, I think Adrian's probably in the best spot out of all of us right now for this. I reckon you are, man. I reckon you are. You're set up you're probably more knowledgeable about this stuff than us at the moment because we're embedded in like the current workflow, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to I agree with every single point you made. So I think that's what we all see from the compositing standpoint. I think what's for sure is that the industry and the situation and the reality in general is far more complex than we are able to grasp. And I think oversimplifications from people that either demonize anything or that see something as the solution to everything, both are not correct just because we don't have enough information at any given moment. And basically, what I mean is that it will probably change in ways we can imagine and in ways we can't imagine. And both are going to happen. So the only thing I see in common is that just being open to learning continuously and not stalling in any single thing will probably be a good solution.
Look, Adrian, I'd like to ask you actually, as a developer, do you see things like ChatGPT? Do you think that you see them giving a boost to the development side of things, so that maybe like the new tools will expedite the creation of new tools?
I mean, unfortunately, barely a developer, but I see how developers at least in my company, are starting to embrace tools that make processes more efficient, also for data wrangling and stuff like that. Yeah, it's an interesting one. What we are doing, at least in our situation, because it's a smaller company, it's not huge, but at the same time we have enough projects in parallel so that we can create some sandboxes and play with stuff. We are trying to find, what's the minimum use case for this particular thing that would justify trying to implement it into a project. And if we manage to go that direction, then at least that opens a new door that is already justified and it's already profitable for a project. And if it's legally, everything cleared and stuff. So that's the kind of the pattern I'm spotting in the last few years, just trying to find just the minimum use for a tool that would justify getting it into a project. And that makes the leap between playground/research and actual production. But it's not like let's go all. Imagine Midjourney was doable for other reasons, but let's go all Midjourney for this. It's like that would probably not work, especially with what you mentioned, just that at the moment there's no way to make the changes that you want to make. There's no way to iterate. There's no industry to support the project. So, but what if you can use it to, not Midjourney, but whatever AI tool, to minimize some aspect of the work and make it more efficient in a specific direction. And yeah, it's interesting. What I've been thinking is that we don't have to consider that it's only VFX that is changing. It's the whole industry. It's film. It's like way bigger than VFX. So it will probably shift and remove and shatter the whole thing in some way. But at the same time, maybe it will bring some more areas that are outside of VFX at the moment into VFX, or VFX changing into a different entity. It's like
That's true, because if you're in a games engine, what's stopping your stuff being imported into a game for the same film or something? I mean, actually, I have to say, I think AI as well. I'm waiting for Shotgun to do a thing where you have dailies, and what's stopping it? Just literally, like, we're on Delist, right? And it's going to put all our topics together after this podcast. What's stopping something doing that in dailies for every single shot?
You mean
right?
There's no VFX soup and there's the
well, no. But as someone's talking, yeah, exactly. As someone's talking, it could literally just say, "Do this." It could summarize. I mean, the thing is with that is it will get it wrong, obviously, as we know. But that's something that would be quite useful potentially, and all this kind of stuff. So it's it's going to be nuts.
So that would essentially replace like a PA or something taking notes on a shot.
Well, you can already transcribe the meeting, and then you could summarize it. There's already transcription services, and you could feed it and be like, "Can you summarize this?"
But the reason why they can't do that is because it's locked down, right? Like, let's say you're working on a Star Wars show, you can't be like, "Oh yeah," and then Darth Vader dies on this bit, and it's like unbloody like Chat GPT, and then you could. It's
I don't know how it works for example, Google Enterprise stuff. Like, I'm not because you can't just like Google itself has a transcription thing, so I'm not sure. Like, say it was implemented into Shotgun and it was all internal, so like it would all just be intra-office. You wouldn't need a website, I guess, because it's all like locked in, right? So
I mean, they've kind of already answered that to a certain extent, because when you like cloud-based rendering, right, that lots of big companies rely on, like I know NPC on Jungle Book and stuff, they had to do a ton of. I think it was something to do with Amazon. I feel like I might be bullshitting. But they had to have a ton of security stuff, because it's like, we're sending our renders off to someone else's server somewhere, and they're going to send us back an image. They had to know it was all locked down, and where's the cable and all this kind of stuff. So, yeah, maybe it's been answered, not answered, but crazy times ahead.
It is.
Crazy times ahead.
Cool. I think this is that's all the time we have, right? So we'll cut this one short. This one. The one
AI special.
The AI.
The AI generated episode.
Yeah, this is where we get.
Yeah, we didn't actually film this.
We managed to get through 2 complete episodes plus a Q&A without spending 2 hours talking about AI. That was
Cool. Okay, see you next time. All right, go ahead, G.
Hey, we're back.
One last.
You killed my flow.
Just
the
one more
director's
thing.
cut.
Just one more thing. Go ahead, G.
Oh, just the fact that you had said it's evolving in ways that we can't really imagine right now, and like the tools that are coming out that are like groundbreaking are going to contribute to making the next phase of tools. in the future. And that, I think I just see the curve kind of going like this. So if you just put that on a timeline of like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, like what the hell's in store?
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, but the only thing I'd say is, as technology's got better in the VFX industry, there's needed to be more VFX artists, not less. So will that continue?
Especially in the last few years. Like you would imagine people like, oh, well, it's so good that we need less, but it just becomes more accessible, right? It just becomes more like now every movie can have it or everything. And then we need more people to do it. So it's done the opposite of what people think, that it's got rid of all the jobs. It just created like so many jobs that's almost unsustainable.
There's definitely going to be like AI technician or this kind of thing. Like earlier when you were saying like the client can just show something generated in Runway, or they'll ask you to do something in Runway, and I think they can just have somebody on their team as well on the client.
Yeah, absolutely, totally, yeah. It's like hiring a concept artist or something, but they can just churn out stuff for them.
I know a show where they were using that Runway to fill in gaps in the edit that weren't on.
Oh, wow. So they took like a still frame and they were like, oh, here's just like...
Well, no, not even a still frame. They were just like, oh, now it's snowing in a mountain scene. And just to like fill in the edit. So when you do like audience testing, there's just something, right? So it's not just a... So yeah, it's kind of interesting.
I would love...
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just saying, like, even as a comper, just like for a second, disregarding the fact that we are doing particles, we are doing deep, we have even some renders inside of Nuke, which is technically not even compositing if you look at it from the traditional standpoint. But just disregarding that for a second and going to the AI route. So, what's the parts of your job that you enjoy the most? Is it rotoscoping? Is it camera tracking? Is it doing,
It's rotoscoping, Adrian.
It's definitely rotoscoping.
So it's probably...
Why even ask?
Camera tracking and rotoscoping.
It's like... That's what I'm getting to. Like, it's probably like 10 to 20% of your job that you really enjoy, and that's the percentage that is disappearing the least with all these changes.
That's true.
Yeah, but with image generation, though, it's interesting as well. Because I wonder if that can knock out a huge chunk of the creative part.
Well, how much do you think you have that you have ownership, or that you have a feeling of, if you just type in like, please make me this thing, and it makes it perfectly, doesn't that cheapen what you've done to that thing? Like, or do you think people don't care?
No, that's what people said about VFX on special effects.
From my brain.
Yeah, but it takes a lot of work to do it. Like, you have to learn a skill.
Yeah, but it's the same with image create. You could argue the same with AI image, because again, it comes down to 8. I can't remember what episode it was. We've only had 2, so it was one of the 2. But in one of those episodes, G was talking about how like a good comp is somebody who can tell a story with a shot, right? Like anyone, like for instance, anyone can take their phone and film something. Doesn't mean you're Christopher Nolan. Anyone can write a prompt. Doesn't mean you can use that image to tell a story, right? What's the story behind the image? How do I get it to look where I want them to look? And that, I think, is the bit that it isn't so good at yet. I know, because there's no context. You're saying what you want and not what you want the vibe to be and what the backstory is to the image.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so take that, AI. You're not stealing our job.
AI.
On that note, I have a... Oh no!
Poor G. G just wanted to go to bed. He just wanted to say one more thing, and now she's like regretting asking Adrian.
Can we make an episode 4 and call it one more thing? And it's
exactly.
Just one more thing. I have this. Hold on.
Tony, you gotta let him go, man.
Speaking of this, I don't know if you've seen this. It's like the shit.
What is this?
It's Star Wars fan fiction, and the guy made like alternative versions of Force Awakens, and basically he's driven a story. So it's like a fan fiction story, and he's driven the story, and he tells like an alternate version of events. And this is like perfect. Like the AI is like perfect for this type of medium, where as you said, Josh, like the story is already there.
Yeah, but how's that guy got a light on his head that isn't red? Like, you can pick apart all these, like, pick them apart as if they're...
No, I'm not saying this is a film. I'm saying, it's enriching something that already exists, which is fan fiction, and it's giving visuals to fan fiction where otherwise you'd have to... So it's like a new medium, almost. It's like, oh, what if I wanted to, like, if I'm writing excellent fiction, and I just want something to go along with it as a visual. It's perfect for that kind of stuff. I don't actually know if there's anything that existed before. You'd have to hire, like, somebody to paint you like artwork for the for the stuff. But
I mean, it's impossible,
super
right? You wouldn't be able to. I mean, something I'd say is, as technology progresses, it's all down to the idea. It's all down to how good the idea is. And the person who wins is the person who has the best idea. Whereas before, these people would be priced out, right? Like, if you need like a couple of 100,000 to be able to tell this cool story you got. And then as the technology gets better, you need less and less. And then the problem is everyone can make a good looking bloody storyboard thing or whatever. And now it's just down to who has the best idea, which is kind of how it should be in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is pretty complex, really complex. And I'm sure that it has like so many implications at the same time, but in the end, like if it has a potential, it's going to go in that direction, even if it's in one way or another. So let's imagine like this is completely taking all the morals and all of that part and just putting it aside for a second, because it's super important, but this topic is still a reality. It's nothing we can just disregard.
Yeah, I think if you're interested in making like compelling imagery and trying to fool audiences and stuff, because that's kind of what VFX is, kind of like a magician fooling on it.
Definitely.
I think people will be drawn to. It's just another tool, right? It's just like you're still creating a vision and fooling people, and it's gonna draw people in. I think it's just gonna lead there.
And just because we can pick holes in it doesn't mean that an audience cares. Does that make sense as well?
Yeah.
So like, just because we can see things that like, it doesn't matter. Like if an audience says, yeah, that's good, and they watch it, and on Disney Plus it's got great stats, then it's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also interesting that like this just another tool now is something that like a 9-year-old can do on the iPhone that their parents probably gave them.
Yeah, it's opening up the world to many other people, I think.
Yeah.
The same way that After Effects did when it first came out, or something like that, So, cool.
Crazy.
All right. She's gonna go to sleep now.
No more topics, right?
All right, that
that was fun.
Let's end it.